Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today's the 26th of November 2019. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, also just before we jump into the charts, quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos. And of course our JFD Bank website, and specifically our JFD research page, which we update on a daily basis. So I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here for yourselves, guys. So feel free to visit us on jfdbank.com and click on the tab here called research. But right now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is Nikkei225. So I talked about this one yesterday, and basically what I was saying that the index was kind of still trading below this a little short-term downside resistance line, and I was talking about the cash index as well. So basically it was trading below this downside line, but what I was saying that in order for us to consider further move higher, we would need to see a strong move above the 23,591 zone. So we got our break of this downside line, but we never kind of stayed. We can see that even the 4-hour candle never stayed above this level. It did overshoot it a little bit, but never kind of even closed above this level, above this 23,591 zone. So in a way, still the same game plan remains. The only problem here is right now that the index is trading below the downside line again here. So of course, this is now kind of leaning more towards a little bit of the downside, because in a way, this is giving us a little bit a small bearish signal. The only thing is that for us to consider lower areas, at least in the short run, ideally we would like to see a drop below the 23,000 level. So for now, kind of all this territory right here could be somewhat of a neutral one for us, but we'll keep an eye on this downside line, of course, because right now, like as you can see, that the index is trading back below it, so kind of raising a few concerns here. We also saw the US cash indices spiking higher, of course, on this one, and we saw the new all-time highs being hit on the cash indices, so something to watch out later on, but I'll pick up on that in my traders tea time later on at 14:15 GMT. So for now, looking at this picture here on the Japanese index on Nikkei225, in a way, for us to consider slightly lower areas, we would need to see a drop below the 23,000 zone. So, but even then, as you can see, we are still trading above this upside support line, this short term, or even actually already a medium term, taken from the low of the 26th of August. This medium-term upside support line here. So in a way, if we see a drop below the 23,000, then yep, we may see a drift lower towards this line. And if it does reach that line, then we'll take it from there, see what he wants to do. Does it want to rebound, or does it want to actually break it and move lower? But again, that's a bit of a not for now, let's put it that way. In terms of the upside, as I said, keep your eyes on the 23,591 because we need to see a nice good clear break and a close, ideally a close. We'll start looking at the 4-hour candle, but ideally we would prefer a daily close here. So if we do get something like that, then we will start considering higher levels. Of course, one of our main targets here is the 24,448 zone, but around here could be a possible level as well. But again, let's see if we can actually climb back up here and break above and close above this 23,591 zone. If we cannot, and if the index continues to trade below this little short-term tentative downside line, now this is something to kind of consider, especially for the bulls, because if it continues to drift lower and drops below the 23,000 zone, then well, I mean, the upside could be slightly off the table for the short run, because don't forget that from the medium-term perspective, we are still above this upside line. Gold. Gold is pushing back to the upside nicely. Now, this is what I talked about recently when I talked about gold, basically, and what I was saying, that initially we will consider a possible, if we see a drop below the 1459 zone, then yep, we will aim for the 1456, and that could be that level to watch out, because if we get a drop below this, then we could see some further declines. Now you can see that we did get a drop below that, but now the commodity is retracing back down, back up a little bit here. It's currently getting held by the by today's pivot. Now, with this one, because it's getting a little bit messy here, and let me just probably clear this chart, because let's start fresh on this one, because in a way, it's like I said, it is getting messy. So what do we have ourselves here is, of course, overall, it's still under this downside resistance line, this kind of this short-term downside resistance line, tentative of course, but nevertheless a downside line. So and that's taken from the high of the 4th of September. So we can see that the commodity, the precious metal, managed to reach an area recently near the 1478.80, or let's round it up towards the 1479 zone, where it found its resistance and then drifted back down again. So it tried to go for a larger correction, but failed near this 1479 level. So now what we could do here is keep an eye on this little low, which is the current low of November, and that's roughly around the 1445.50 zone. So a good potential target. Again, we'll consider that, especially if we see today, for example, gold getting held near this, or should I say below this pivot point here, which is roughly around the 1457 mark. And if it continues to hold, then we could see another round of selling and potentially aiming for the 1445 mark. Now, the way you could play this one out is, given that yesterday gold found some support near the 1451.50 zone. A nice good drop below this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and then we could target this area here, the current lowest point of November, and then we'll see what he wants to do around here. If it happens by the end of Friday today, then it would be quite interesting to see if gold could create a new lower low, or in other words, a new low for November. But again, in order to start considering this idea, we need to see a drop below the below yesterday's low near the 1451.50 zone. In terms of the upside, now this is where it's tricky a little bit. Yes, the upside, of course, we could see some, but again, everything what's going to be up until this downside line, everything could be seen as part of a larger correction. So in a way, you could keep an eye on this little level right here near the 1462 zone, which is marked by the low of the 21st of November. Then if that gets broken, if we see the price pushing above this, then we could aim for the little area right here near the 1473 mark. So of course, again, don't get me wrong, all these moves higher could still, well, they still need to overcome these strong areas of resistance, and to be honest, a lot of bear pressure surrounding this one right now, because the equity markets are performing slightly better, and in a way, like I said, gold does have some obstacles. That does have some obstacles, kind of, to go in order to go higher. So if the equity market starts reversing to the downside, we may see gold picking up again. From the technical perspective, if it starts pushing above the 1462 zone, then we'll start aiming for slightly higher levels. Don't get me wrong, there's a very good area here of resistance. There's this one right here, the 1479 mark. It also coincides with the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart. So basically, guys, be very careful with this one. But again, for now, it's the kind of the probability is more to the downside, especially if it continues to get held by today's pivot near the 1457 mark. So let's keep an eye on this one. For those who are more on the cautious, you could just on the cautious side, you could just wait for a drop below the 1451.50 mark, so which is the low of yesterday. So let's keep an eye on this one. Ethereum. Now then, I looked at this one recently, and basically after kind of breaking this key area of support near the 152.40 mark, roughly around there, you can see that the crypto traveled lower, found some support near this area right here, near the 132 mark, rebounded nicely yesterday to the upside, and now it's kind of balancing near just slightly below this key support area that got broken recently, so near this 152 zone. So in a way, if we get a push above this, or in a way what we could do here as well, and by the way, let me just probably adjust this level slightly, because in order to kind of capture the most recent swings here. So this 154 zone, roughly around there. So if we do get a push above that area right here near the 154 mark, then there is a possibility we could see this one drifting further north. We will aim for the 172.70 zone, which is marked by the low of the 19th of November, and then we'll take it from there. Currently, that level coincides with the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart, so basically, in a way, could be a nice potential target. But again, in order to consider that, we need to see a push above the 154 mark. In terms of the downside, well, with the downside here, from the very short-term perspective, what we could do and how we could play this one out is today we saw this one dropping lower and finding support near the 144 mark. So in a way, if we see a drop below this and we see a drop below today's pivot, then we will aim back again towards this 132 zone. So for now, this is the game plan. Be very careful with this one, guys. Keep your eyes on these potential breakout points. And yep, let's see how this is going to play out. A quick mentioning of AUDUSD. Now, I talked about this one yesterday, and basically what I was saying here, that in order for us to consider lower areas, initially we'll start considering lower areas if we see a drop below this level right here, and that's why I had it highlighted. But ideally, just to get comfortable with further declines, we would need to see a nice, good, strong move below the 0.6766 zone. So we did get a brief overshoot here, but as you can see, the bulls quickly pushed the rate back above it. And now what we could do, and now of course we will move the highlighted area here a little bit lower, and we'll continue targeting this area right here near the 0.6766. Of course, don't get me wrong, we continue to trade below this downside line. So in a way, the short-term downside line taken from the high of the 7th of November. So as long as it kind of remains below this, we should be targeting the downside. But again, in order to get comfortable with that downside, we need to see a clear drop below this key area of support. So nothing will happen if we don't see this drop here. So that's why this barrier for us is going to be the more important one to watch. If this decides to push higher and breaks this downside line, then yes, we will aim for higher areas, but in order to get a little bit more comfortable with the upside, a push above the 0.68 mark here, 0.6803, something like that, a push above this area could do the trick here for more buyers. So let's keep an eye on that one. NZDCAD. Now, I haven't looked at this one for quite a while, and basically looking at this one, last time I talked about this one, I was talking about a potential correction here to the downside where the 0.85 level could get tested. It could provide some support. It did. We saw the rate reversing and pushing higher and targeting our other level here near the 0.8550. So we got a perfect hit. So now we can shift this arrow a little bit. You can see that I kind of haven't looked at this one for quite a while. But the way we could play this one out right now is, of course, we'll keep a close eye on this potential area of, well, not potential, actually, it is a current area of resistance where the rate is balancing right now. So this is 0.8550. So if we do get a push above this, yes, that's wonderful. We'll start aiming for slightly higher levels. We do have this 0.8567 mark here, which also recently, or should I say last week, acted as a fantastic area of resistance. So if that gets broken, now this is where there could be a little bit more excitement among the bulls, and we could see this one pushing higher, as it would confirm a forthcoming higher high. And yep, the next target could be around the 0.86 zone. That said, don't forget that we are a little bit the pair has a little bit distanced itself from this upside support line taken from the low of the 29th of October. So in a way, maybe a bit of correction could be possible as well. But to be honest, at this point in time, it would be a little bit of a difficult one to make a call here. For now, given that it's closer to this 0.8550 zone, we'll continue targeting the upside. We'll continue waiting. We'll wait for maybe a possible break here to the upside. Then we'll be very careful near the 0.8566 zone, 67 mark. Yep. And if it wants to travel higher, then yes, we will aim for that 0.86. But if it starts dropping lower and if it falls below the 0.85 mark, yes, we will consider a bit of a decline here, but up until this upside line, because in a way it could still provide some support. But if you want to consider, let's say, deeper declines here, well, I mean, you could in a way wait for a break of this line and maybe a push below the 0.8438 zone if you're more on the cautious side. So this way the rate would be placed below this key area of support and below the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart. So let's keep an eye on this one. GBPJPY. So this is a huge mess, and I've deleted all my drawings here because in a way, of course, as you can see clearly here, I mean, it's still within the range. It's roughly between these levels right here, and let me just put this one on the chart. So now it's roughly between these levels here, between the 139 mark on the downside and the 141.50 on the upside. So, but of course, if you want to be a little bit more accurate here, or let's say more short-term visioned, we are slightly above the. We're still holding on near to this 139.36 level. So as you can see, this 139.36 acted as a very nice area of support from which the pair continues to rebound, and that has been happening from around, and let me just actually extend this a little bit. That has been happening from around, oh, well, no, that's, I do apologize, from around the beginning, or should I say maybe mid-November. But again, guys, for now, this is the problem here. We are still stuck in this range, and as I've mentioned previously in one of my videos where I was covering GBPJPY and some other pairs that are GBP pairs which are in a range right now. So in a way, it looks like that it might continue drifting like this, moving sideways, maybe until the UK election, or maybe until something happens before that, or some sort of headline happens, or some sort of headline that will drive it out of this range, because economic data doesn't seem to work here for now on the pound pairs. So that's why we will continue monitoring the kind of headlines surrounding the UK elections or Brexit in general. So that's why, guys, for now, be very careful. Keep your eyes on these two levels, and let's see which way this is going to break, because last week we saw this one drifting lower, and you can see it kind of looked like there could have been a chance for this one to drift lower, but once again, it rebounded and pushed higher, and now it's kind of balancing here again. So basically, we're just waiting until we get a break either through the 141.50 zone or the 139 level on the downside here. So let's keep an eye on this one. EURUSD. So I talked about this one yesterday, and this is what I was saying, that even if we see a drop below the 1.1016 mark, our main target for now is the 1.0989. We're not going to drag this one too much to the downside. If it wants to travel lower, that's great. That's good news for the bears. But if it doesn't, I mean, for now, we're just going to continue targeting this 1.0989, and then we'll take it from there, see what he wants to do after. With the upside, we could look at some higher levels if it starts pushing back above the 1.1043 level. Now, again, there's still a lot of obstacles here to overcome, so that's why we do have our our arrow here to the upside from the 1.1093 level, because this is the level that it could be a little bit more comfortable for us in order to consider slightly higher levels. So for now, in a way, if you're trying to capture a move higher here, well, I mean, it would be a little bit on the difficult side, I would say, because any kind of move higher could be seen still as a part of a bit of a larger correction, and then maybe it could lead to another round of selling. So that's why be very careful here with the upside. With the downside, as I said, let's say if it continues to get held here as it is right now near this 1.1016 level, or should I say below that level, then there is still a possibility that this could drift lower and maybe test this 1.0989, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, guys, I really hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me later on at my Traders Tea Time, as always, that's 14:15 GMT. We'll have a look at some other instruments and some of these as well, just to see how everything performed. But yes, guys, I hope you have a fantastic trading day. Be very careful, stay safe, have your stop losses in place. And as I said, yes, I'll see you later at my Traders Tea Time at 14:15 GMT. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.